You think you know the story. The boy, the beanstalk, the giant, and the treasure. A simple fairy tale, a morality play, passed down through generations, played out on the lips of parents as bedtime comfort. But behind this charming fable lies something far darker, far older, a tale that predates the nursery rhymes and Disney cartoons. A tale where giants were no mere creatures to be tricked, but ancient forces, forever cursed, bound to the earth by powers older than time itself. There is something unnerving about the way Jack climbs that beanstalk, something more than simple curiosity or the hunger for treasure. He does not just climb. He ascends as if to steal something beyond wealth, something that was never meant for mortal hands. But why, you ask, would a boy risk everything for the gold of a giant? And why does that gold remain so cursed? It's not a question of greed. It's something deeper, an echo of a primordial bargain, the desperate dance between human ambition and cosmic forces that no one dares to understand. Today, we uncover the forgotten origins of Jack and the beanstalk's cursed giant. And it will take us far, far beyond the clouds, into the shadowy depths of ancient myth and hidden history. A poor boy, no more than a child really, stands at the threshold of his family's humble home. The walls are worn, the roof leans heavy, as if burdened by years of neglect. His name is Jack, and with nothing but his wits and a trusty cow, he is sent to market to sell the last of his family's possessions. It's a simple errand, yet one that will change the course of his life forever. On the way, Jack meets an old man, an odd figure, with eyes too sharp for his age. The man offers Jack 5 magic beans in exchange for the cow. These are no ordinary beans, he says, a knowing glint in his eye. Plant them, and they will take you somewhere far greater than you can imagine. Jack, with the naivety of youth, agrees. Returning home, he is met with anger from his mother, who scolds him for throwing away their last hope for survival. In a fit of rage, she throws the beans out the window. Jack, still in disbelief, goes to sleep. When he wakes, a great beanstalk towers outside his window, reaching into the clouds. The boy, now burning with a mix of curiosity and fear, begins his climb. Each handhold feels like a pull into something otherworldly, like a gateway or a trap. At the top, Jack discovers a world unlike any he's ever known, a kingdom in the clouds, where a great giant lives in a towering castle. The giant, a creature of terrifying proportions, is a keeper of treasures. Gold, riches, and magical objects all lie within his grasp. But something is off. The giant, though mighty, seems cursed. He is bound by forces that even he cannot understand. His treasures, once the fruits of power, now seem like the trappings of an ancient, forgotten curse. Jack, driven by a mixture of greed and fear, steals from the giant. The first treasure is a golden harp, a prize so beautiful it sings with the music of the heavens. The second is a sack of golden coins, each one worth more than a lifetime's labor. With these treasures in hand, Jack hurries back down the beanstalk, an act of theft that seals his fate. The giant, awakening to the theft, gives chase. He shouts down to the earth, his voice thunderous, shaking the ground beneath Jack's feet. But it's too late. The boy has already descended. In a final, desperate act, Jack cuts down the beanstalk, sending the giant tumbling to his death, vanishing into the abyss below. Jack returns home, laden with gold, his family's poverty a thing of the past. But the victory is hollow. The treasures Jack has stolen, those cursed objects, bring with them something else, a price that no one can escape. Now, let us strip away the charm of the familiar story. What we think we know about Jack and his beanstalk is, in reality, a mere shell of a much older and more complex myth, the modern version, with its youthful adventure and quick resolution, was shaped by Victorian-era storytellers, most notably Joseph Jacobs. who first published it in his 1890 collection English Fairy Tales, but this is not where our story begins. The roots of Jack's tale reach deep into the soil of ancient folklore, where giants were not just characters in fairy tales, but living, breathing remnants of prehistory. In earlier versions of the story, the giant was not just an antagonist, but a symbol of divine or semi-divine being tied to the earth, often seen as a guardian or an elemental force. These giants were the remnants of a time when gods and titans roamed the earth, and mortals had no place meddling with their realms. In fact, the earliest known variant of Jack's tale comes from The Boy and the Ogre, a French folktale published in 1697 by Charles Perrault. But even before Perrault's pen touched paper, versions of this story had circulated in oral tradition for centuries, evolving and adapting to the needs and fears of each culture. From ancient Germanic myth to Celtic lore, the image of a young hero confronting a powerful, cursed giant or ogre, as they were sometimes called, was a common motif. In these older renditions, the giant was not the bumbling, comedic figure we might now recognize. No, the giant was often depicted as a dark, primal force, an ancient being whose very existence was linked to the earth's most primal energies. The treasure, too, was not just gold, but often a magical or spiritual power that was forbidden to mortal hands. Stealing from these giants wasn't simply an act of thievery, it was an affront to cosmic order itself, an act of hubris that would bring divine wrath upon the thief. One such early version, Jack the Giant Killer, found in the British Isles, emphasizes this cosmic connection. This tale, dating back to the 18th century, is rich with symbolism. Jack's giant-killing exploits are not simply heroic deeds, but acts of cosmic rebalancing. The giants in this version are often seen as forces of chaos, threats to the stability of human life. But even so, Jack's victory over them comes at a price, as we will see. In the 14th century Piers Plowman, we find echoes of the giant myth. Though the beanstalk isn't present, the theme of human ambition leading to divine retribution is explored in great depth, the ancient fear of the giant as a symbol of untamable nature, wild, destructive, and eternal resonates strongly with the early medieval mindset, but it's in the deeper, more mystical corners of folklore where the true meaning of the giant's curse begins to emerge. According to the renowned folklorist Stith Thompson, giants in European myth were often tied to sacred sites, ancient burial mounds, or the remnants of old civilizations. Their treasures were often believed to be cursed not because of their material worth, but because of the divine contract they represented. The treasure, like the giant himself, was a remnant of a time when gods walked the earth, an age now lost to mortals, yet forever present in the shadows. The curse, then, isn't just about the giants, rather it's a reflection of the human condition. To take the gold, to claim the treasure, is to defy the laws of the universe. It is an act of spiritual trespassing that disrupts the delicate balance between man, nature, and the divine. One final piece of the puzzle lies in the figure of the harp. In older renditions, this harp was not simply a beautiful instrument, it was a sacred object, often associated with the celestial realm. In ancient Celtic myth, for instance, the harp was a symbol of the connection between the mortal world and the realm of the gods. The stealing of the harp, then, becomes even more sinister. It is an act of severing the bond between heaven and earth, a theft that shakes the very foundations of the cosmos. So, Jack's theft of the giant's gold and harp is not just a childhood adventure, but an ancient ritual of transgression. A mythic echo of mankind's eternal struggle against the powers beyond his understanding. The tale of Jack and his beanstalk, like so many folk stories, is not simply a recounting of events. It is a deeply symbolic journey, a reflection of the human soul's grapple with power, greed, and fate. But to understand the true meaning of the story, we must delve deeper into the archetypes and mythological themes that reside within it. At the heart of Jack's journey is the motif of the heroic transgression. Jack, a young boy, is not a traditional hero in the sense of noble lineage or grand destiny. He is, in fact, an everyman, a figure of the common folk. He is you and he is me, an individual seeking to escape the confines of poverty, to reach for something beyond the horizon, even if that something is forbidden. What does it mean to steal from a giant? On a surface level, it's a simple act of greed. But on a deeper, psychological level, Jack's theft represents the human urge to seize what is not ours, what we cannot truly comprehend or control. The giant's treasure, though dazzling and rich, is not meant for human hands. It is a force beyond understanding, an archetype of untamed nature and primordial power. When Jack takes it, he transgresses the natural order, an act not unlike the biblical fall of man. The giantess' wrath is not merely personal revenge, it is the punishment for the sin of defying the divine. This notion of theft as sin finds roots in mythological archetypes that stretch across cultures. In Greek myth, the Titan Prometheus steals fire from the gods to give to humanity, bringing civilization, but also suffering and divine retribution. Similarly, in Norse myth, the trickster god Loki steals the apples of immortality, setting off a chain of events that will one day lead to Ragnarok, the end of the world. Like these mythic figures, Jack takes what he should not, and in doing so, he triggers forces beyond his control. The giant himself, though monstrous and threatening, is not simply an antagonist in Jack's path. He is a manifestation of cosmic law, a guardian of an ancient, forbidden knowledge. The giant's death, then, is not simply the end of a creature, it is the destruction of an ancient balance. What Jack does when he cuts down the beanstalk is not just defeat a villain, it is to sever the connection between earth and sky, between the divine and the human. In mythic terms, Jack has just destroyed the bridge between the mortal world and the divine realm. But what does the harp symbolize? In the Celtic tradition, the harp was not just a musical instrument, it was a spiritual vessel. To play the harp was to communicate with the divine, to bridge the gap between the mortal and the eternal. By stealing the harp, Jack takes more than just a physical object, he claims a piece of the heavens. The harp song, once heard, was believed to be able to summon visions of the gods, to communicate with the dead, or even to alter the course of fate itself. It was, in essence, the ultimate forbidden treasure, a power that no mortal should possess. In a psychological sense, the harp represents the voice of the gods, the divine song that calls to us, yet also warns us of our mortality. Jack's act of stealing it is an attempt to transcend his human limitations, to claim the voice of the divine for himself. But in myth, as in life, such an attempt comes at a cost. The more one strives for that which is divine, the more one risks falling into ruin. Perhaps the most chilling aspect of the tale is the underlying question it poses: what happens when a mortal reaches too far? The giants in this story are more than just powerful beings, they represent the boundaries of human experience. They are the forces that remind us that some things are beyond our reach, and those who seek them will inevitably suffer the consequences. Jack's journey is a reminder of the danger that lurks in our desire to challenge the divine, to climb the beanstalk into realms we do not understand. This isn't just a fairy tale for children. It's an ancient warning, a psychological riddle that reveals our own deepest fears, our fears of overstepping the bounds of the world we know and venturing into realms we were never meant to touch. To understand the full significance of Jack's tale, we must journey back through the corridors of deep time, tracing the origins of the giant myth to the ancient civilizations that shaped our understanding of the world. Giants, those colossal beings who walk the earth, are not merely figments of imagination. They are the echoes of an older, primordial world. A world where human beings lived in constant proximity to forces that were vast, unknowable, and often terrifying. These giants, much like the ones in Jack's story, are not simply creatures, they are symbolic representations of the forces of nature and the cosmos itself. Let us begin with the ancient Sumerians, who lived in the cradle of civilization, where the first myths were born. The Sumerians believed that the earth was once ruled by powerful deities, many of whom were giants. These beings, known as the Anunnaki, were said to be both creators and destroyers, titanic forces that shaped the world and its people. In Sumerian mythology, the gods created humanity from clay, but the giants, the Gudalim, were the predecessors of the gods. They were beings of immense power, often associated with the earth, the sky, and the primordial chaos that existed before creation. The story of the Anunnaki is a tale of creation and destruction, of gods who came from the heavens to shape the world, only to retreat into the cosmos when humanity grew too ambitious. Like Jack, who climbs the beanstalk to steal the treasures of the giant. The ancient Sumerians believed that humans were constantly reaching for what they could not comprehend, whether it was the knowledge of the gods or the power of the giants. This theme of the giant as a cosmic being continues through the ages. In Greek mythology, the Titans, massive gods who predate the Olympians, are cast down after a great war. The struggle between the Titans and the Olympian gods mirrors the very battle Jack faces when he climbs the beanstalk. The giants, like the Titans, represent forces that cannot be tamed, powers that are beyond human control. They are nature's rare elements, the chaos of the cosmos made flesh. Even in Norse mythology, giants or Jotnar are key players in the grand saga of creation and destruction. They are the enemies of the gods, forces of entropy that exist to challenge the divine order. The Jotnar are not simply villains, they represent the primal, unbridled forces of nature that the gods and humanity must constantly struggle against. In the Norse myth of Ragnarok, the final battle between gods and giants will mark the end of the world, a cataclysmic event where the natural order is forever altered. This connection between giants and the destruction of order is important. In every culture where giants appear, there is a common theme. They represent the forces that must be overcome for civilization to thrive. Whether the giants are cast as villains or tragic figures, they embody a deep, existential truth. There is always a price to be paid when the natural order is disrupted. Now, let us move forward in time to the Indo-European cultures, where the myths of giants were transformed into the folklore we recognize today. Here, giants were often portrayed as both protectors and threats, beings who guarded sacred spaces, yet also symbolized the untamable forces of nature. The early Indo-Europeans, who lived in a world of vast forests and untamed wilderness, saw giants as beings who existed outside the realm of human society. Creatures who could not be understood by mortal minds. This is where the myth of Jack and the beanstalk finds its roots. The giants in the story are not just greedy creatures to be vanquished. They are ancient guardians of forbidden knowledge, keepers of treasures that humans were never meant to possess. In stealing from the giants, Jack is not simply committing theft, he is engaging in an act of cosmic rebellion, one that challenges the very foundation of the universe. In recent years, researchers have uncovered a fascinating connection between these ancient myths and the development of early human societies. Folklorists like David Hufford and Michael Bell have argued that many of the myths surrounding giants and other supernatural beings may have been inspired by real encounters with the unknown, the experiences of early humans confronting the vastness of nature and the mysteries of the cosmos. The giants, then, are not just figures of myth. They are reflections of the primal fear and awe that our ancestors felt when they faced the unknown. There is also a compelling argument to be made for the survival of these tales through what researchers call cultural phylogeny, the idea that myths and folklore evolve over time. Like living organisms adapting to changing environments and societal structures. The story of Jack and the Beanstalk, in its many forms, is a perfect example of this, from its earliest incarnations in ancient civilizations to its modern retellings. The tale has evolved, adapting to the needs and fears of each generation, while still retaining the core themes of cosmic transgression and divine retribution. Now we return to the tale we thought we knew, a simple story of a boy, a beanstalk, and a giant. But what if we told you that the gold Jack steals is not just gold? What if the harp is not simply a musical instrument, but a symbol of something much deeper, something that has haunted humanity for millennia? Jack, with his simple act of climbing the beanstalk, does not just ascend into a land of giants, he steps into an ancient, forbidden realm, a realm where the giants are not just monsters, but guardians of powers older than time. These are the remnants of the divine, forces that shape the very fabric of reality. Jack's theft, then, is more than just an act of greed. It is a symbolic rebellion against the cosmic order, an attempt to claim that which is beyond human reach. In the end, Jack's victory is hollow. The gold he takes cannot heal the wounds of the soul, and the harp song is no longer the divine music it once was. Instead, it is a reminder of the price of hubris. The giants may have fallen, but the curse they carry lives on, passed down through the ages in stories like Jack's. The stolen treasures, symbols of our desire to transcend the mortal realm, become shackles, chaining Jack to the very forces he sought to escape. The beanstalk, too, is a symbol of human ambition, an impossible ladder reaching toward the heavens, a path that no mortal should take. And yet, we climb. We reach. We dare to steal what is not ours. In the end, we are left with this question: what happens when we, like Jack, dare to defy the gods, to climb the beanstalk, to steal the gold and the harp? What cosmic forces are we awakening, and at what cost? As we close this chapter, remember this: there are stories that never truly end. The beanstalk may have fallen, but there are still giants in the sky, waiting.